The day had begun. The day in question was Valentine's Day. There was a couple by the name of Natalie and Jim. Of course, since it was Valentine's Day, Jim wanted to do something with Natalie. Jim called to Natalie and asked her if she would like to go out on a date that night. Natalie said yes. They both decided to meet up around 7 o'clock, and from there, they would go out to eat. Jim was excited, and so was his girlfriend. They did minuscule things just to pass the time by. Eventually, 7 o'clock had finally come. Jim drove to Natalie's house. He picked her up, and they drove off to the restaurant of which they were eating. They finally made it there. They obviously ate there. They talked for a long while, and Jim gave Natalie a variety of gifts. After about 2 hours of them being there, they went ahead and left. Jim wasn't sure where else they should go from there. However, Natalie recommended that they should go to her house and watch some movies. Jim thought about it, and he agreed that that would be a good idea. So yet again, Jim drove to Natalie's house. Once they got there, they went into the house, got settled, and picked out some horror movies, and began watching them. Several hours had passed by, but then, Natalie heard a sound. It was the sound of feminine laughter. It was coming from the basement. Natalie got scared by this, and she told Jim what she heard. He as well heard the sound. He got up and went to the basement with Natalie following from behind. Jim walked up to the basement door and opened it. He turned on the light, and he began walking down the basement stairs. Before he made all the way down the stairs, he looked back at Natalie and told her to stay there. She listened and did so. He was now in the basement. He looked around. Then, he saw a woman. A woman wearing a gray hoodie, blue jeans, and a white face mask with black rings around the eyes. The mask in question was odd to Jim. It was just blank. It was emotionless, and because of that, it sparked fear within Jim, because of the fact he just couldn't tell what she was thinking, or what her intent was. Before he could even say one word, the woman pounced on him, making him tumble to the ground. After that, she put her hand around his mouth and pulled a knife from her pocket. She quickly took the knife and jabbed it into his throat. Then, in a quick motion, she sliced the knife over to the right, slicing his throat open. An excessive amount of blood began to ooze from the cut. It was obvious he was dead, or if he wasn't still, he would soon be dead anyway. The woman got up from the corpse and looked down at it, admiring her work. "Jim, are you alright?" the woman heard calling from up the stairs. She then ran to the stairs. She looked up the stairs and saw Natalie standing there, just barely on the first step. Natalie gasped as she saw the woman's bloody knife in her hand. It was obvious to Natalie that the woman had killed Jim. She was going to run, but she couldn't, for she was paralyzed with fear. Of course, she feared what would happen to her next. The woman charged up the stairs with malicious intent, charging at Natalie. Right before the woman got to her, Natalie, in a quick motion, threw her fist at the woman. Her fist made impact with her face, causing the woman to just barely stumble back. The woman got on her knee to prevent herself from falling. She took off her mask, and tears were forming in her eyes. Then she looked up for a second and said, "Amor, you made it." Natalie was confused, but then she felt a hard metal object hit her leg with great force. Natalie fell to the ground, knowing that her leg was well broken. She looked up and saw the man that she assumed to be Amor. His clothing was dark. He was wearing all black and white, while wearing a similar mask to what the woman was wearing, and he was holding a large sledgehammer. "Oh, Harley, are you okay? Did this bitch hurt you at all?" The woman known as Harley ran at Amor and hugged him and said, "She hurt me really badly, Amor. She hit me. She made me cry." "Oh, I'm so sorry, sweetie," Amor said while hugging Harley back. "Now you stupid, stupid bastard. No one hurts Harley and gets away with it." A look of panic came across Natalie's face as she looked up at the two. She saw Amor raise the sledgehammer up in the air, and he slammed it down on her head. Both Amor and Harley heard a snap and a crack of bone. Amor lifted up the hammer. All there was left of her head was a gory bashed-in pile of bones, skin, and blood. After that, Amor put down his hammer and hugged Harley once again. Happy Valentine's Day.